are back. Tiny Toys Tuesdays, episode 34. We were kind of a little hiatus here. I think everyone was sick of third edition, so we haven't done a whole lot. I mean, the only stuff that was really new at the end of third was the Dawnbringer stuff, and I don't even think the last book or two books had like anything relevant as far as gameplay. So
just new models, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. The 4-player game mode, I've played that. Very fun.
I will say
I want to see that in
yeah,
4th edition.
I'm sure
That was very fun.
I'm sure they'll keep going on with 4th edition as far as the multiplayer stuff goes. So with me tonight, I got Erica, Cameron, one of our newest members, Henry, and of course, Jed. Everyone knows Jed. And so obviously tonight we're going over the 4th edition changes. This isn't like every single rule. This isn't like how to play 4th edition. This is just mostly the biggest changes from 3rd edition to 4th edition, as well as some gotchas that maybe you haven't thought about yet. So we'll definitely go through those. Obviously, check our Discord if you haven't already. And I guess we'll just go around real quick to see what everyone's been up to. I'll just do me real quick. I am still working on a Flesh Eaters box that I bought off Colt, and I'm still building that. I feel like
Still?
oh my god, I'm so tired of Flesh Eaters. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I have so many models, but like I am so tired of Flesh Eaters building them.
Flesh Eaters are not fun to build, especially the ghouls. The crypt horrors.
Yeah, the crypt guard. Is that what they're called? The crypt guard? Oh my god! Just like I just want them done. Just get them out of my face. So that's what I've been working on. Erica, you've been kind of all over the place with other things.
Yeah, I have not even really touched anything AOS for a fat minute.
Well,
shame.
Well,
I know, and it's something about like working and getting a doctorate. So
she's also doing some other hobby stuff. You're into you're kind of in that weird running cult. So
I've been earning these.
Ooh. Hey.
So,
okay, I could forget.
Nice.
Yeah.
Loud.
I've been doing alternating between a half marathon and a 10K every other month.
Ooh.
She's in one of those crazy cults, just.
I don't know. Just trying to be more healthy.
Oh yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good. Cameron?
Love it.
I have been making and painting terrain for the Smite tournament in September, non-stop for like the last month and a half.
It looks good though. It looks good.
It's looking so good.
Pretty excited about it.
I am happy about my progress. It's just taking a long time, and it's a long piece of terrain.
Yeah. It looks like you got your method down though from some of the pictures you put on the Discord.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's a method, but every set I do gets more and more complicated, and so I have to do new things every single time.
And then you got to touch them all over again.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it's looking good.
Yeah, they do look good. So I have a Smite slide down here, so definitely go check out all of our new terrain. Henry, what have you been up to?
Getting all my Skaven painted up. I'm not entirely sure what's going to be good or what I want to bring in August.
Just getting them all done.
Yeah, right now I'm working on Storm Fiends, so hopefully it takes forever. There's so many little details on these guys.
Yep, I know someone who's painting at least one rat. Jed.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
how's my thankful going?
It's going great right now. Honestly, when it comes to hobbying, I got you and another guy I'm working on commissions for.
Yep.
So my hobbying, I got the new Chaos, the Abraxia. I got her.
Nice. She's
and I got
sick.
I got the new terrain as well, but I haven't touched it recently. Other than that, honestly, school has really been the number one thing. And in my off time, whenever I have a chance to breathe, Elden Ring and hobbying. That's pretty much it.
I mean,
I hear you.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I think everyone's at right now. We kind of a break from AOS until we hit 4th edition, so totally makes sense.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So if you haven't already, get your Smite tickets. I don't think BCP is
Get
up yet, but definitely get your Smite tickets soon. I know they are cheaper out of the gate if you buy them early. Um, we should have a pretty good turnout. Also know that it is now a World Championship qualifier.
Ooh.
So you
Ooh.
get a, I guess they call them a golden ticket. I guess is what they call it. So it is a qualifier for that. So definitely sign up. Cameron will be our TO once again.
Thank you, Cameron.
He's got a lot of work to
I
do
can't-
because the rules
Doing the
are
Lord's
going to be
work.
pretty crazy.
Yes, he is.
I can't get my own golden ticket. Sad.
What, Cameron? One of these days, I'll TO for a tournament so you can actually play.
I think
One of these days,
I
I'll wait for that day.
think the I think the
about 2 to 3 years after I graduate.
I think the Old Town is a qualifier, so you can do it there.
Ooh.
There's also
Oh, yeah, that-
123 people going so far.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
I'm
insane.
confirmed for Old Town. Let's go.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, definitely sign up for Smite.
Let's
So
go.
next, let's just go through the overview. I'll go through the overview for me and then get your guys' take on it. Essentially, so for the overview of 4th edition, all the core functions are still the same. So all the phases still exist. They all function relatively the same. Everything that Games Workshop has looked at they've scaled it all back. So rend has gone down. Save stacking is pretty much non-existent. So they've scaled everything back. Everything hits a lot less hard, and it's a lot more. It's a lot of like 4s and 5s and stuff like that. So very. It's not super consistent, right? So it's going to be all over the place when we get all of the indexes out. The probably biggest thing is the interactivity between each phase. People are going to have to get in the habit of going, I am done with my hero phase. What do you have for your hero phase? I'm done with my charge phase. What do you have for your charge phase? It's going to be you're pretty much going to have to get in a habit of every phase, making sure your opponent does all of their interactions, because it's crazy how many interactions are between phases. And then, like I said earlier, all the, I don't know if is it indices or indexes? All the indexes, they're all coming out. They'll all be free, or basically start from scratch as 40K once did. So so that's my just general overview of 4th edition. Cameron, we'll start with you. Anything else that you want to throw in there?
Oh no, it's all new. I can't wait for the indexes to be coming out. They're coming out. They're going to start coming out on the 8th for everybody to go ahead and see. There's a lot of things I can't wait to actually see what their points are, because from everything that we are seeing, things look very, very scary. But for some factions, but it's like, all right, are those like 500-point models, or are they 80 points?
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Right. Henry?
Yeah, we definitely don't have the context.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we don't. Not yet. Anything you want to throw in the just general overview?
I think you definitely, like you were saying, you have to be way more aware, because like you can't like space out on your opponent's turn anymore. Because if they like you want to countercharge, and you kind of have to make sure that they're positioning kind of how you want them to.
Oh, I had to pay attention to my opponent.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if anyone is a Magic the Gathering fan,
Oh yeah.
this edition just is like it screams control blue, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that you're gonna have to remember to do on your opponent's turn, or vice versa. Think about what your opponent's going to do. Erica, what are your thoughts? I know you mentioned this is very much somewhat similar to chess.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more of a chess game now, where you have to be thinking. I mean, you're always thinking ahead. You're always thinking of not just what you need to do next, but what your opponent may do, moves and counter moves. But I do think that the back and forth part of it is going to be a lot more streamlined. I also, from a marketing perspective, you've got to give it to Games Workshop. They do a really good job of coming out with new editions, refreshing the game, continuing to make it relevant, and continuing to bring in the revenue. So
Yeah.
I am interested to see how many different models or new models people need to go and start buying to build their armies and their regiments. And
They're,
My hope is I get to see a Mortis engine on the battlefield.
hey, maybe they'll make them relevant. I will say
I
they're
haven't
One
seen
of
that
these
in like
days.
3 years.
the new models. I will say they're killing it. The new models are.
There was that one Legion Knight build. Like one player went 4-1 with like 3 Mortis engines with Manfred. It was like one player. And I
That's
only
crazy.
remember it because it
They
was
got
like 3
lucky.
Mortis
Is what
engines.
happened. They got
Yeah.
lucky.
So stupid.
I would ask Jed what he thinks, but he's going in this blind. So tonight.
I'm going fairly blind.
Yeah.
From my general impression, you can't just go to the bathroom. I'm going to go get a beer or whatever, and come back, and your opponent's turn is done. You got to be very interactive this edition, especially Henry mentioned countercharge. That's the big one.
We'll
Yeah.
get to it.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
so plan your bathroom breaks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Playing the bathroom breaks. Yep.
Oh,
All right. Let's go through general changes. So how I have the PowerPoint split up is basically through the phases, unless it's just a general change, and then I put it here. So let's just go through these. Right? There's quite a bit of little nuances here, but so this is a good take. So for those of us have actually read the rules already. The core
You guys can read?
rules. What?
You guys can read? What?
Oh yeah, well, sort of.
It's crazy.
We'll see by the end of the night. So the core rules say winners choose territories, but loser chooses who deploys first. However, in the battle plans, it seems like it's rules as 3rd edition. So I don't know. I would imagine, especially for tournament packs and whatnot, it's going to be relatively the same that we were doing.
yeah, that's the same thing that happened in 3rd edition. 3rd edition says one thing, and then the tournament packs come out and it's something completely else.
Okay. Because the battle plans do mention it's relatively set the same, but I did see a lot of articles and stuff mention that the winners choose territory and the loser chooses who deploys first, and I was like, does that mean you want to be the loser? Because that typically you want to know who deploys first, right? So very interesting. I think at the end of the day, I think it'll just revert back to what we typically do for competitive play for Age of Sigmar. So that was a notable change, and I'm still a little interested to see how that plays out in the future. One of the biggest changes, no more Battle Shock. Gone. Get out of here. No one liked it anyway. So what does this mean?
Or some of us just brought armies that ignored it.
Okay, yeah, great,
Yep.
awesome, love it. So I think
So
Hordes,
fun and interactive.
Yeah, Hordes rejoice here. I think we're going to see a lot of Horde armies.
Yeah.
This is going to be very interesting. What are your guys' take on no Battle Shock?
I now no longer need to count how many models died that turn. I
For
can just put them
real.
away.
For real.
Less math means more Warhammer.
Yes.
But Math Hammer.
Yeah,
Yep.
you still have that, but
More
But
opportunities for clan
there's no
to
hammer for
come
Battle
back.
Shock.
yeah, no, I think this is good. This is a good change. It'll be very interesting to see how the playing field is with all of the hordes, because now you have to chew through every single one of them. Lookout Sir is now called Guarded Hero. Works relatively the same way. -1 to hit. There's no restriction other than it can't be a monster/war machine as far as the unit that gets guarded, right? Oh, go ahead.
I thought if it's any hero can be guarded, but if it's infantry, then they can't be targeted for shooting.
Yeah, it's on there. Can't be guarded by any
okay.
non-hero unit with at least one model within combat range. Infantry heroes also can't be targeted by shooting attacks outside 12 inches. So as long as it has infantry keyword, it cannot be targeted by shooting attacks. So that means things like Andrasta, right, can still get guarded hero.
Yep.
Right. So the key here, you're gonna have to play a game between having your hero be guarded and attacked, because We'll get to it, but one of the other changes is no longer do we have um, melee ranges, right? So everything within 3 inches can fight. So now you have to be very careful about where your hero is, because your screen that you typically would have, if your hero is 3 inches behind it, it can now be attacked with whatever gets into that screen, right? So you have to be very careful about where your heroes are now.
It just, all that means is I don't need to ask my opponent what's their range for their weapons.
Oh,
just
it's so
always,
nice.
It's just always
Yeah.
Wait, Alariel has 3-inch weapons now instead of 1 inch for whatever
what?
reason?
Oh,
Wow.
Another
no,
buff for
That's
Horde too.
Yeah,
the
for
Maw
real.
Crusher actually can
Maw
hit
Crusher?
past his own infantry.
Yeah, for real.
What?
I mean,
Poor
okay,
Marco.
but can I have an unpopular opinion?
Yes,
Alright,
of
go
course.
I feel like this makes the mechanics make less sense, because a tiny little clan rat with a little knife has the same range as those long ass spears that always get in the way. And so if we're going to actually implement this rule where size doesn't matter, thanks Games Workshop, I also think that they should maybe make the spears shorter.
Okay, I have a counterpoint to you.
Oh, here we go.
Clan Rats already had a 3-inch range no matter what.
That is
Yeah.
true. That is true.
It's true.
Okay,
Sure.
but okay,
So
or
I get-
any okay, something else with a small little dinky pokey
Morsack
stick.
guard.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maw
check
Crusher, Maw Crusher, completely agree.
Yeah.
You know,
I
So-
mean,
that
for real.
small little dinky finger can't go anywhere. I agree.
to bounce off your point, because this is one thing that I am familiar with, as I am going in mostly blind, but this is something I paid attention to, is that there's a lot of general rules shift to like anti-charge with spears,
Yep.
or bonus on the charge with certain weapons, like hand weapons. Something that I noticed that on the Ardboys profile for 3.0 was something I love. +1 attacks on the charge. Or you get the stickers for +1 rend when you get charged.
Yeah.
I love that change. That's something that it seems like they're switching over
Yeah.
for this edition. That does give those spearmen units some real credibility as a
Yeah.
kind of an anvil. Or a fight first. I think Stormcast have a fight
Yeah.
first
Oh, there's a lot of
with
fight.
their Vindictors.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
fight
for, like,
first,
spearman
fight
fighters.
last stuff. There's a lot
It's
of
like
fight.
Yeah.
a 4-up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I will say they are still playing flavor to some of the spear stuff. Like a lot of the
Yeah.
spears have like anti-charge, right? So if they get
Yeah.
charged, they get some sort of buff, right?
I totally get what you're saying, though.
I do still think, what is it, the Lumineth spears that are like 6 inches long? Can
Way
we
too
just
long.
like, if they get a 3-inch reach, can we just make
Just-
those shorter, please? They're in the way.
They're like
They're so
actually
bad to
like
transport.
6.
100%.
4 CPs at the start. Everyone gets 4 CPs at the start.
Mhm.
You get +1 for being an underdog, and then no additional for each turn. So it's not like one where you used to get 1 at the start of the turn. It's also much harder to get CPs, and they are very valuable. And
What's an underdog?
Glad you asked, Ched. Underdog is essentially just anyone who's lowest on score when the round starts. They will be considered the underdog. The underdog will get a lot of, and in some cases, very good buffs, depending on the battle plan that they're playing.
Mhm.
So every battle plan has some sort of twist that deals with the underdog getting some sort of buff. So some are better than than others for sure, but it is going to be very interesting to see how many people play off the underdog and just want to be the underdog, right? There was a
Mhm.
battle plan in 3rd edition where if you had less points, you could control the objectives more. So I have a feeling that
Nexus Collapse, right?
Yeah.
something like that. Was it
Yeah,
Nexus Collapse?
yeah.
So I feel it's going to be kind of the same way where people try to maybe shoot for being the underdog.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see how that mechanic plays out. So.
Don't you also get bonus command points if you have less auxiliary units?
Yep. You get, so these are in here. You get less for auxiliary. If you have, and we'll get an auxiliary, what those exactly are in a sec, but you get less for auxiliary, as well as you get 1 additional command point at the start of the game, at the start of the first round, if you are 1950 points or lower.
Uh-huh.
So
50.
Okay.
A 50 point cost extra command point for first turn,
Yeah, basically,
which
you're paying for
can
50
be
points.
very good for a lot of things.
It can
Yeah.
be. I still think I'd rather have a unit rather than the command point at the beginning. Just how useful is that going to be at the very start? Maybe.
It's going to be very army dependent, I think,
Yeah, I
depending on
agree.
cost
I agree.
and points.
100%. Reinforced units can only be reinforced once, but there's no restriction on how many reinforcements you can have. So,
No more
no longer.
ridiculous 60
Yeah,
clan rats or
no more.
60 zombies.
Yep, no more
Sure.
60.
Yeah, only 40.
Yeah,
Only
only
40.
40. Only 40.
Here's my 200 clan rats, my 5 units of 40.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah, that is.
Now, I will
Bro.
say that plays really well though with the change to no battle shock.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
now that you're only bringing back units and not spawning new ones,
Yep.
there's going to be fewer of them to chop through.
Yep.
I am
Skaven
sad that I
players
can't have
rejoice.
15 bow snakes though.
Oh, bummer.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
sad.
I get it.
Oh,
I get it.
bummer.
I get it.
We're happy
I'm
at the bow
I fe-
snake.
I feel your pain.
Okay. fine.
Another thing that this is going to be very big into is whenever we get into the battle regiments of actually creating your list.
Yep.
I
we'll
believe
get
that
there.
it's going to make a huge,
Huge
more of a difference than people might actually expect.
I agree. War Master. So you can have multiple War Masters, but one of them must be a general. So if you take, for instance, Marathi, and you have no other War Master, she has to be your general. Now that being said, there's a couple things that generals do for you, but no longer do you have to put the command trait on your general. You can put the enhancements on any hero you want. So,
Oh, okay.
Which is very good because most war masters are named people.
yes.
Yeah.
So that's good. However, the general regiment can give you 4 units instead of 3 when we get to that point. I think it's the next slide. So, yes. So here we go. So obviously, Bone Splitters, Beats of Chaos, and many of the Stormcasts are now gone. They still have a year left. So rest in peace. Rest in pieces. Next is an army. An army comprises of 1 or more regiments led by a single hero, and up to 3 other units. 4 if it's a general's regiment. Each hero lists which units they can include in their regiment. So we haven't seen this yet because the indexes aren't out, but essentially, for lack of a better example, if you have Marathi, she will have a certain number of units in her regiment that she can take. You can take those up to 4 because she's your general, and then you do that for each hero. Most lists, there might be some exceptions to this rule, but most lists, essentially, 1 hero is 1 drop, right? So if you've got 4 heroes, it's most likely going to be 4 drops, right, with the regiments. That doesn't include the auxiliary units, which is part of the next thing. I'll get your guys' take here in a second. Let me just go through the auxiliary part of it. There's no more restrictions on anything you can take. Like, you can pretty much take anything you want now. You want to take, 7 Doom Wheels? Go for it. There's no more restrictions on battle line or any of that, monsters, anything. You can take whatever you want. However, they're going to be counted as an auxiliary unit, and auxiliary units are deployed 1 at a time, and the player with the fewest auxiliaries gets 1 extra command point at the start of each battle round. And I cannot tell you how important that is. I took this from Vince from his Warhammer Weekly show. He basically said auxiliaries just don't exist. Just don't take them. Because I think the command point is way too valuable. Now, obviously, we'll have to see when the indexes come out and see. There might be an
7
edge
Doom
case.
Wheels may be worth it.
Right, there might be an edge case where something is so good that it just gets spanned that'll eventually get
Yeah.
FAQ'd. But so that's essentially how the building blocks go for building an army. So I'll let you guys go at it. What did I miss? What do we need to add? What are some gotchas here?
So for me, I really like this system because it forces you don't have to do battle line. However, it does force you to have to choose what hero you have for things.
Yes.
For what units you do. And it's going to really, really hurt a number of factions and probably do be the counterbalance of them, because it pretty much means for every hero you have is another drop, no matter
Yes.
pretty much no matter what.
Yep.
And so factions like Fire Slayers that are all about heroes, that means that you're a 5 or 6 drop, and it's really hard to get lower than that unless you do things. For Seraphon, you're a pretty high drop no matter what, because every hero in a hero heavy army is another drop. While you do another faction that doesn't need a lot of heroes at all, and all of a sudden you know that you're probably going to be the one that goes first or gets to choose who goes first every single time. We do know that some named heroes can go into regiments.
Yes.
That has been leaked, but we don't really know which ones or anything like that. So that's going to be an interesting take. But yeah, and also with the auxiliaries, that's just another drop. So if you're taking auxiliaries, you got to be ready to give your opponent 25% more CP, as well as them being able to choose who goes first.
Yeah, I think
so it better be worth it for you.
I think it's a big deal by just going crazy on auxiliaries for sure. Anyone else on list building?
So this is kind of also has to do with the battle plans or the battle tactics. So a lot of them are kind of like has to do with killing something in your opponent's general's regiment. So something I was thinking is if you're an army that doesn't care about how many drops you have, you just take your general, put no other units in his regiment, and then suddenly you're shutting down a bunch of battle tactics for your opponent to take.
It is one drop.
Okay.
That's I mean that's a good. I didn't think about that. That's a good way to think about it. But you are giving up a lot for that one drop, right?
Yes, you're also giving up the honor guard ability and
Right.
stuff.
So
Yeah.
and also we're not getting too much into the GHB stuff, but that's essentially what the GHB is. It's has to do with the honor guard system where certain things in your general's regiment get certain buffs. That's essentially what the GHB is about. This GHB. So we're not getting too much into that, but that is a good. I didn't even think about doing that. You could technically just do a general drop, and it makes it much harder for a battle tactic for sure. Yeah, I didn't think about that. It's a good one.
What I see people doing is they're going to be a 2 drop, and they're going to have the general and then one super unit that the general makes really good for the honor guard ability and the GHP, and then another drop for a hero in your side, and then all the things that are actually part of your group is going to be part of that one.
And we'll do another show all about the GHB and all the battle plans and stuff too.
Yeah.
Once it releases, I don't know too much because a lot hasn't come out from the GHB. So
I do gotta say, at least in a tabletop scenic way, I think armies are actually going to look a little bit more coherent as the heroes that they're bringing along.
yeah,
I mean, a Ruination Chamber Stormcast is going to have probably unlock battle line or unlock Ruination Chamber units, right? So I think armies, you're going to see a little less. Here's my 20 annihilators and 6 little foot heroes that are with them sort of lists that are a little bit more cheesy. Of course, you'll still have your fun list, but in terms of competitive, I think armies are going to look at least a little bit more coherent.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think you're going to see the Stormcast list of 5 of the banner heroes. And
Vexilers, I think is what they're called.
I don't think that's going to be a list that's unless you're prepared to give your opponent CP and be an 11 drop.
Yeah. Now technically, you could play that list. It's just you are going to be giving your opponent a lot of stuff for that.
You can, and that's what I love about it is you can still play all those lists that you've been wanting to play. You can play that 7 Doom Wheel list.
Yeah.
But there's still a little bit of give and take there.
Yeah. I will say they did a great job of making it with the system they have in place. Like people can bring whatever they want. You can play whatever you want.
Yeah.
There's no restrictions anymore.
Yeah.
But yet still balancing it from a competitive aspect as far as what goes in that regiment.
That behemoth keyword was the bane of so many lists as I was getting into the game, where I was like, "Come on, I can't play this, really."
Yeah.
I'm so glad they got rid of that. Sorry, what's going on?
No, I do think that the how they structure these lists that are based on each of the heroes could be one of the things that I think is most beginner player friendly out of this rendition, because trying to figure out, okay, well, this goes with this, and this works with this, and this mechanic you need to bring this unit. Like, if you're like, okay, here's the hero, here are my options, it
That's a
makes
good
it
point.
a lot more beginner friendly. And then the more veteran players can figure out how to break that system.
Yep.
Cameron, Jed, I'm looking at all of you people that are
Yeah.
gonna like, okay,
Yeah.
how can I
Absolutely.
break this instantaneously?
Absolutely.
But for somebody that just wants to like pick up a deck of Magic cards and play, this kind of gives you that feel as well. Like you've got something to go off of that's a little more scripted and a little bit more menu of options.
Yeah.
It's a good point. I didn't even think about that. It's good.
It's the new system definitely feels a lot more digestible, less drinking water out of a fire hydrant, right? Yeah.
Next, players pick one enhancement from each enhancement table. They pick one spell lore, prayer lore, and manifestation lore. So, essentially, what this is, we don't know exactly what all the enhancement tables. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be multiple. There's probably, I would imagine there's probably going to be one for mounts, maybe. Obviously, command traits, artifact. As far as I know and what I've seen, you can't take multiples of these like you used to, like not 2 artifacts. So you'll get 1 command trait, you'll get 1 artifact, you'll get any other enhancement table that you have, whether it's like, KO's got their own general one. You get 1 spell lore you can pick, and every wizard knows the entire lore, thank God. 1 prayer lore, same thing, and then 1 manifestation lore. And all the manifestation lores is just in the spells, and Games Workshop has put them in certain regiments where some, it's like you'll have like a selection of 3 in the spells that go together, and these are all free. You get all of this is free. You get all these one of all this for free.
To start.
Yeah. So get ready for seeing them in the spells on the table, because they're going to be everywhere.
Finally.
They are going to be everywhere, and they are going to be brutal in how they work and interact.
Honestly, I think this change is probably the biggest change in probably the entire new edition, just because it's this another thing of everybody's going to be able to do it, except for like KO, and that's it.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be able to do this, and it is nothing but positive for the most part for people to do it. So everybody's going to do it.
And when you say positive, we'll see. I feel like this is going to get really.
It's a rock paper scissors for a lot of things.
It really is. It really is. I think really really good players are going to abuse the system very much, and it's going to suck for a lot of new players for this. I think. And that's my.
I haven't been able to read the one rule I haven't been able to figure out yet is if a single wizard can cast multiple endless spells, manifestations in the same turn. I haven't figured that out yet.
Nagash.
And so exactly, if someone like Nagash can do that, then that means that you're probably summoning like 40 wounds of things every single turn.
I'm gonna look that up real quick while you guys talk.
Oh,
I'm
Lordy.
gonna see if that is actually something that you can do.
I was looking at things earlier, but if that is a thing, it's possible. That is huge.
Yeah. Talk about marketing too. Like, I didn't have many endless spells before this, but once they announced that, I went straight to the store and I bought Skaven endless spells immediately. Like, I'm looking for
They probably have a whole bunch that were made, and they're sitting in their closet at where their warehouse is. And they're like, how can we get rid of these? I know, 4th edition.
Oh yeah.
In Games Workshop, man.
All I know.
You say that, but I can't find endless spells for certain factions.
It's so hard.
It is
like
tough.
the Sylvaneth
They'll probably
ones,
come out
good
with
luck.
several boxes.
They're gonna have to.
100%. I'm just glad I bought like every single one possible when they first came out. Just because, like, for some of them, it's just impossible to find them now.
Yeah, if they group them by Grand Alliance, that'd be awesome.
It seems like there's going to be a good bit of value in anti-spellcasting, such as Khorne, maybe Fire Slayers. We'll see. More priests doing invocations. I haven't looked at invocations, but something similar. And factions leaning into anti-spellcasting, because from that it sounds like there's going to be some value to that. Or stealing endless spells, if that's still a thing. I know Zinch used to be able to do that. We'll see whether or not that stays.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm reading it right now,
yeah,
and
it
it says
doesn't.
that.
No more than one wizard or priest can attempt to summon the same manifestation per turn.
Okay.
But that is it.
But yeah, that's it. So
So Nagash and
technically,
5 Necromancers.
so yeah, if you have
Woohoo!
Nagash, you could technically use all of his power on just summoning manifestations.
Yeah,
Because
and
he has, like,
there's
what,
a
8
manifestation.
casts?
He has a 9 cast, I believe. The 9 books of Nagash. They finally got it right.
Finally,
He got
Jesus.
his reading
Took him how
comprehension
long?
back.
So yeah, so I guess technically you can do it. It's gonna be crazy, man. Manifestations are gonna be everywhere. It's gonna
And
be
it's
pretty
That's
nuts.
yeah,
it.
and it's just one of those things where it's like, oh no, every turn that's my turn, I can summon 4 free units. And
Yep.
what are you gonna do?
Or how a very competitive player is gonna use it is they're gonna use magical intervention, which we'll get there. Cast it in the opponent's turn, block something,
Oh,
and now you've got to
Ugh.
deal with this endless spell in your way. So,
Yeah.
endless spells also. While we're talking about that, they have now they're all changed. They are completely different now. They have their own attacks and health, and can be targeted as such, including faction terrain. So much different. It's going to be a lot easier to take out faction terrain now. I'm
okay.
looking at you, Skaven.
All right, when we're going over faction terrain, I think that is this is a
It's crazy.
big, huge thing that I also think is almost a misstep for some of the factions, because it's like a Skaven and Sylvaneth. It's really easy for them to get their faction terrain out,
Yeah.
like really, really easy. And then we go to people
Gits.
like ogres,
Gits.
gits, or anything like that, and it's just like they have one faction terrain, and it's pretty easy to kill if you focus on it, and then they just lose it.
Now,
Yeah.
now that being said, we don't know what these faction terrains do yet. So,
A number of them we do.
what?
Yeah. We know like a
Some
few
of
of
them.
them.
We know some of them, but like I don't know what the Gits one does. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if you're gonna be able to do the same summoning as you once did, with the
If I remember correctly, they actually did show the Gits one. And
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I just haven't seen it.
it was a command point to summon.
Yeah. It's a command point on a 4-up still, I
Oh yeah, no, that's gonna be a no for
Yeah.
me, dog. Not on
think. Which
a
is
4-up.
just a straight worse version of the
Oh
novel.
yeah, that's rough. That's gonna suck. Anything else?
Did they show Nurgle faction terrain?
They did not.
They did not.
No.
Okay, because I'm wondering, because everyone has like 3 of them because of Befouling House.
Yep. Yep.
I'm wondering if they're gonna keep something like that.
I don't know. We'll have to see. It's just on
They,
the
they might
indexes.
wait
One
till
of-
the battle tome comes out for that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because indexes are just a stopgap.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too to see how many people choose not to take their faction terrain because of the cost. And who knows? It could end up being something that we see in a GHB where that's a battle tactic.
Oh, they
faction-
cost points now.
No, they don't.
Do they cost
faction
points?
terrain's
No,
free.
they're
No,
still
they're
free.
free. They're free.
Yeah.
They're still free. I think you'll still take them because it's a target that the enemy has to pick, right? If you
Yeah.
want to
Okay.
shoot my moon,
Oh, shooting. Yeah.
you can shoot it. Fine. That's one thing you're not shooting in the rest of my army, right? So I think people will take it just for the fact that it's yet another thing that the opponent has to think about, right?
Hey, free wounds is free wounds.
Free wounds, exactly. All right, let's go on to this. I think this is my last general changes. Coherency is now a 1/2 inch, which is much different. It is a very big change. Even though it's a 1/2 inch, it's a big change.
It makes that 40 clan rat squad not nearly be as good as a screen as it used to be.
Yep, 100%. I mean, the amount of times I've seen a cult like abuse the 1 inch, like he taught me very well
Oh,
on how to
it's
screen
so
with that.
easy to abuse it.
Yeah, so now it's a
Oh.
1/2 inch of another model.
The
If you're-
squigs. Yeah, Zach's old squigs.
Yeah, you
That's
can
one of the
place
most
your-
ludicrous cases.
Yeah, you can put the squigs and all that, so they can go through your own people. And,
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
ridiculous.
If your unit has 7 or more models, you must be in the coherency of 2 models. So this is up from 6 that they used to have. So it's now 7. And then you can't pull models out of coherency. So no matter what, you cannot pull them out of coherency like you used to be able to. Any other thoughts on coherency?
Does that Does that apply for every single phase and
Yep.
sub phase? So you can't. I mean, I guess that makes sense too because they got rid of Battle Shock. So it's not like you can be like, oh, well, 3 more will run away. So the unit can stay there.
Yep.
Yeah, changing when coherency is checked, I think, is also big because then if you misplace like how you set your squad up and they're just like 2 ranks straight up, you could end up losing like 5 more models than you wanted to just because of how they initially were compared to
Yeah.
the check now.
Sounds like people are gonna be bringing movement trays and keeping them on the movement trays for most of the part.
I guess now,
Yeah.
you can. Yeah,
Or
movement trays
you've
are
got
more
to think
apparent.
like chess and think all the way through to the end of that round when your units are dead.
Mhm.
You
I'm
have to
thinking,
think about
what?
their death, not just their life.
Thinking.
No more allies. They're gone. Allies are gone. Get out of here. Regiments
Boo.
of Renown are still a thing. So they work as they did in third edition. So they will still have their own little gimmick, and you work on that little system, right? They're kind of their own little thing. But no more are allies. Allies are gone, and that's a huge change from third edition. I mean, you almost always had a game with at least one ally or 2 allies in it, right? Furies, like think about all the allies that you put in your
Furies,
armies.
no.
So
Oh,
they're
I
gone.
don't have to deal with Furies anymore.
I
Okay.
know, thank
oh.
God. Yeah, huge change, huge change.
Now, I do
go
think
ahead.
that also plays into the comment, Jed, I think it was you saying it earlier, that we're going to see a lot more cohesion
Yeah.
and just a lot more. I don't know. I don't want to call it cookie cutter, but it's going to take a lot more creativity in order to get some crazy variety in some of these
Yeah.
lists.
Yep.
The armies are definitely GW, from my understanding from these rules. We want models to not be stringed across in a single file line. We want them to actually look like rank and file. We want them to all be the same army, so no Nurgle and Corn or whatever, right? Unless it's a regiment of renown and it's a specific reason. It definitely seems like that there's a shift to general coherency within a faction to make the faction look like the faction. And that has pros, that has cons. I mean, cons is it limits player, freedom and choices on what they want to bring. But pros, it really makes it. Whenever someone walks up to a table, it makes the armies feel distinct and look different. Yeah, I can understand why they did the change that they did.
and
It's also going to help beginners too,
Yeah,
because as you
yeah,
get into this game, you're not going to walk up to a table and go, okay, well, what the heck is this potpourri? You're going to
exactly.
look at an army and be like, okay, I know this army. This is kind of how it functions. These are the
Yep.
mechanics. I think I could play against this.
well,
Here's a spearhead
Old-
box. Get started.
my biggest
Old
thing is
Cities of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My biggest thing
Ugh.
is now Games Workshop doesn't have to think about allies. They can work on the game as intended from the
No more
factions.
excuses.
Like they don't have to balance around allies. They make their
Yeah.
job a lot easier, and this is going to be
It's a good balancing point. Still
Yeah.
don't like it.
Yeah, I know. I see the downside of it. Like everyone used allies, and it was a cool mechanic that you could use to work into your army. But I think this is probably better all around. So
Yeah.
next, no more summoning. Summoning's gone.
Boo. Boo.
Now it's essentially just reviving already dead units.
Rip Nurgle.
Yeah. So essentially, this is a
Where
good
did they
thing.
get the Nurgle?
This is a good thing because now what you bring is what you play with. You don't have to with Nurgle. You don't have to bring like 500 points of extra models.
Yeah.
Now there may be some exceptions to this. I think Zinch. I think there was an exception to this. I think.
So it's still bring what you. It's still bring what you have. They have a chaos spawn spell that you still have to pay for the chaos spawn.
You still have to pay for it.
Yeah, you still have to pay for it, but it has the rule even if it dies, you can still bring it back an infinite amount of times.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So there's that. So no more summoning. From a flavor perspective, I hate this. I hate this more than anything. I do think this is the right move, but I do hate it. Nurgle is a summoning army. Seraphon
Nurgle
is a summoning army.
Seraphon.
Yeah, it just sucks.
So So I have look. If they balance the books around the idea that there is no summoning for this army
I'm
anymore,
looking at you,
such as
Slanesh.
Nurgle, such as Zinch, such as Slanesh, which I've heard from some people about Slanesh, then that's fine if they balance the armies around that rule of
Right.
hey,
I agree.
this army of naked demons, naked demonettes are all a 5-up save and they move fast, but we can no longer summon. You got to play with what you have. But they balance around that, then that's okay. But if they don't balance around that, then suddenly that army that had the option to summon is going to be feeling really, really bad.
Agreed.
The biggest balance that I've seen is that there's just so much more bring back something that's been dead that
Yeah.
they have. Like all the demon factions have it
Yeah.
in one way or another.
Yeah.
All the death, like almost there's so many factions that have this ability now of bringing back the
Death should have that though, because they're
Yeah.
already dead and you're playing with them.
Exactly.
Oh, agreed.
Everybody's sold right now. 4 up,
Right.
they come back, and then you never roll the 4th.
I will say it's easier to get into those armies now.
Oh, yeah.
Wholeheartedly
Yeah.
agree.
I don't have to
100%.
spend an extra $500 on Seraphon if I want to play like
Or-
the summoning.
Or Nurgle.
Or pink horrors.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
lord.
God.
man.
Pink
The
Horror.
worst
Oh, man.
the worst models to buy.
Now, they did kind of shoot themselves in the foot with that one, though, because that's a huge revenue loss for them to not have, oh, well, I'm going to take this army, and then I need this, and then I need this, and I might need this, and I might need this. So
They make
now
enough
you've
money.
got
It's
people, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the pink horrors just got. It's a travesty what they did to them. But anyway, we're moving on.
I hate pink horrors. It's okay.
Oh
they
my
can
god,
die.
they are gutted
Kill the
and
model.
will never be used again. They're so bad.
I don't think they're that bad.
They're not good. They're not good. We'll see what the points are. We'll see what the
We'll
points
get
are.
into that once we do the indexes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The points. We'll see what the points are. All right, so let's get
I'm going to
in.
be on the Zinch Index.
Let's get into the first gotcha of the night, and I think this is where players are gonna struggle at first to understand this difference. So once per timings, it seems like a very easy concept, but in reality, it's not. Let me give you an example. I actually brought one up here. So, for instance, the Ironjaw's Wa, right? Let's use this as an example. So this is a once per battle in the charge phase, and your charge phase. Pick a friendly Ironjaw's hero to be the target. For the rest of the turn, the following effects apply to the friendly Ironjaw's unit while they are wholly within 18 inches of the target. And it just gives them a bunch of buffs, right? The key thing is, so how many... So because this is a once per battle, do you get to use this for multiple units on the board? And the answer is no. So the way this once per timing works is... essentially, there's two actions here that happen. Either the unit uses it or the player uses it. If the unit uses it, you can use it, depending on how many units you have, right? If the player is using it, it's a once per done, and you can't use it again, right? So the key thing that you're looking for is, like for instance, one of the Daughters of Cain has pick a friendly Daughters of Cain infantry unit that is in combat to use this ability. So the unit is actually using the ability. In this case, everything that has that ability can use it. Like if there's multiple units, they can all use this once per battle in a combat phase, right? But if a player is using it, like the Wa, where it doesn't specify that the unit is using it, then you can only use it that one time. So hopefully that makes sense, and I think this is going to get a gotcha on a lot of new players, especially because they're like, oh, well, I can use this on this unit and this unit and this unit. But if the unit isn't using the ability, you only get it once.
So pick a unit to use this ability once per game per unit that can.
Yes.
Versus the player uses this ability once per game, meaning you get one and done.
Yep. And it'll be very specific, saying, blah 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 blah, to use this ability, right? It'll be very specific on that. So that's just one of the gotchas you have to think about. Go ahead, Henry.
Also, there's some things that say once per turn army. So that means, like for example, the Skaven Rattling Gun, the new cannon thing. it'll say you can overcharge it once per turn per army. So if you have like 3 of them, you can only overcharge one of them that turn.
So definitely.
So even though
Go ahead.
even though there's multiple units that have it, if it's for the army, it's once per turn for the entirety of the army.
Yeah.
One unit for that army.
Yeah. So just be very careful on the once per timings. It can be kind of a gotcha there. So just keep that in mind.
Knowing Fire Slayers, there's going to be a billion of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I'm
Yes,
sure.
they do.
I'm sure.
Excited.
So you'll love it, Jed. Fire Slayers are looking pretty good.
Oh, they are looking pretty good. They're looking pretty spicy.
Ooh.
Okay, next. We already talked about this. If you're at 1950 or lower, you get an extra command point in the first round only. The underdog gets an additional command point at the beginning of each round. So that's another reason why underdog is very good. Command points equals very good. All right, that's the general changes. So those are just overall general changes, list building, that type of thing. So now we get into terrain changes. Lots of different terrain. The battle plans actually have terrain maps now to them. I don't know how often they're going to be used, but they do. They also specified some new terrain concepts. Cover is still a nice one to hit. Behind or wholly on this terrain. Can't have charged or fly. So, this is anything, pretty much. As long as it doesn't have fly or charged, it can have cover. So those big monsters that don't fly, cover. So this is where we talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the show. How does this work for giants? Because this doesn't seem right.
I looked this up. All right, so the way it is giants do receive cover, even if they are wholly on or behind it. But the way that cover works, the only thing that they have to worry about is how big their bases are. Because if a model can see any part that is not behind the cover or not on the cover, that model does not get that penalty. And it does say model to unit. So like if half your unit can see it, and the half the unit is in cover, half that unit has minus to hit and half the unit does not.
Interesting. Okay. And there's no restrictions on how far this is. So if you have a terrain feature in the middle of the board and your giant's on the edge of the board, it still gets cover. There's none of this like it has to be 3 inches and then it gets cover or anything like that. It's like if it's behind terrain, it gets cover.
You determine if something is behind a piece of terrain by drawing a line from your model to any part of the enemy model.
So the Glockkin behind terrain.
Yep. Gets cover.
Gotcha. Scarbrand behind the Blood Throne.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
He gets cover. It's pretty crazy. I suspect they'll do something with giants as far as like maybe their battle traits or something. It just doesn't seem right to me. That just does not seem...
Also, you need to know that not all piece of terrain gives cover.
True.
Correct.
True.
It's specific.
Okay,
That is a good
gotcha.
point. That is a good point.
But I was looking forward to taking a giant and putting it behind an bush.
Yeah, that probably doesn't work. It's the
not
base
gonna
size.
work. They could still see you.
You got my hopes up.
I know.
There is a new place of power terrain ability. It's essentially what it was essentially arcane, but this is a little different. Roll d6. 1 is d3 mortals. On a 2-up, it gets +1 to cast Unbind and Chant for the turn. Chant as well. Or Unbind, Banish Manifestation if not Wizard or a Priest.
So you can turn anyone. Anyone can now unbind.
Correct.
And
which is very good. It's much needed. If you're going to have that many in the spells on the field, this is a good change. This is a very good change. Now, you still have to be next to this terrain feature. So...
Yes. And every one of the places of power can activate this ability.
Yep.
Yes. Cool. Anything else that I missed that you guys caught for terrain stuff?
Terrain has been very, very simple.
Yeah. I agree.
Good.
It's not like
don't want it to be 40k terrain.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Here's a really big one actually.
Okay.
One of the terrain abilities, one of the keywords for terrain is obscuring, which is the one where they cannot be targeted by range attacks if they're wholly or behind it, unless they have the fly keyword. There is no 3-inch marker or anything like that.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
So they can be at the edge. They can be at the edge of the woods, and they can
yes,
still shoot
thank
you.
God, because this needed to be. I mean, when we did the Smite tournament, we just changed it to this, right?
Yeah.
Because
However, you cannot shoot out of it either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It's like a true line of sight kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons on it for sure. That's good. Okay.
Because technically your opponent would still be behind a piece of the obscuring terrain
Yeah,
if you're on
makes
that
sense.
piece of terrain.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Deployment changes. So battalions have been changed. We kind of talked about this already. Essentially, one hero equals one drop in most cases. There will be those extra ones that some heroes are part of a hero regiment already. And then this is something to note that I think people didn't think about. But if you already know you're crazy on drops, you do not have to drop your entire deployment or your entire regiment. You can drop one at a time. You do not. It does not say that you must drop the entire regiment. You can.
If you know you're gonna lose priority anyways,
Don't
might as
give
well
away your hands.
Yep.
force your opponent to show everything.
Exactly. Yep. So you do not have to do that. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I saw something with this for Skaven where we can effectively null deploy by just keep putting stuff underground until your opponents put their stuff down, and then you just finish deploying.
It's a good strategy. Good strategy. Now you will lose out on some of the who goes first type of thing, but you don't want to show
Just
your
don't be-
hand.
I mean, you can
Don't be
deploy
like that
yourself
one
around.
beast of chaos. Don't be like that one beast of
Depending-
chaos player. Don't do it.
Oh yeah.
Depending
get
on the
zoned out.
map, that's going to be a game changer.
Definitely.
Cool. Any other deployment changes? That's all I saw really. That was new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I will say there also is a keyword for deployment now, so like things are a little bit more streamlined as far as what happens in the deployment, which is nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the reason why they did that is for abilities such as the Skaven null deploy. It uses the deploy keyword.
Yeah.
And so everything has an ability. So if there's a role to it, there's a direct ability to do with every single role.
Mhm.
All right, hero phase changes. Quite a bit here. No more heroic actions are gone. Bye. Peace out. Get out of here. Thank
Hold
God. So let's go over some of these. Rally is significantly changed.
Yep.
Significantly. So you roll 6d6 for every. This is a command point still. For every 4-up, or actually, I guess it's new. It was never a command point. It was a heroic action. My bad. Sorry. It is a command point now. Roll 6d6 for every 4-up. You get a rally point. You can heal 1 point to a unit, or return slain models equal to the health characteristic for how much rally points you have. A musician adds 1 to the d6 to the rally roll.
I absolutely love this change.
I think
Because
it's
this is now-
Oh, it's so sketchy now. It's so sketchy.
This is heroic recovery.
Yeah.
This is
Rally.
the healing. You can now rally the 6 wound model technically, and it not feel be a big feels bad for your opponent.
Right. Yep.
Like I remember playing Iron Jaw pigs and just be like, "Sorry, I got 2 pigs back."
Sorry. Roll. Just get good and roll better.
Yeah.
Back when you could rally Stormdrake Guard and it had
Oh.
a unit of 4 of them, and you bring back 2
Yeah.
Stormdrake Guard.
You just sorry.
Sorry, bud.
So
And now
rules.
it's much
Chosen on a 4-up.
I also like that you can use this for the healing without needing
Yeah.
to like,
Yeah.
bring back a model with 1 wound on it.
They
Okay,
just-
okay, well, how long is that 1 wound gonna last?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I really like that it can be used
keep in mind,
more universally in terms of healing.
it is still a
Yeah.
command point, and that command point is very, very
Yes.
important. I definitely think you're going to see rally used a lot less, but you do have that in your back pocket. It's also on a
You
4.
also-
It makes you make bigger decisions.
Yeah.
I actually
Each
think rally's
decision
going to be a
could
lot
make-
more.
Mhm.
You think
Yeah.
think so with that one for that command point?
Oh
How
yeah.
many times did your opponent use heroic recovery?
Yeah, I think it's going to be army dependent, but
Like this is the
Yeah.
only way of healing a hero for the most part.
I think it just depends.
Yeah.
on
And you can't
board
summon
state.
new ones.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
So you gotta hang on
We'll
to what
see.
you got.
We'll see.
It's also
Or-
important to note you have to pick the unit you're rallying before you roll the dice.
Fair
Mhm.
point. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's a good. Good thought right
So
there.
you
That's
can't be
good.
like,
Mm.
oh, I
Good
only
catch.
rolled 2, so I'll bring back 2 1-health guys instead.
Yeah, good catch.
Well,
Yeah,
that
I
actually
mean that makes sense.
that actually reminds me of something a little bit earlier. I completely forgot. One of the changes that they did for magic casting.
Oh, don't go. We're
is
gonna
that-
get there. We're gonna get there. I know what you're gonna
have
say.
we not
I
done
know.
magic casting?
I know exactly what you're gonna say.
Okay,
So-
all right, I'll say that.
Quick
'Cause-
thing for rally. Quick thing for rally. As we're still
Okay.
on that subject.
Yep.
Adding one to the rally roll to rally on a 3-up. That could be big for elite units such as Chosen come to mind, or Blight Kings,
Yep.
to bring back that extra unit, especially if it's the opponent's hero phase. Just to bring back that extra unit who's on a 3-up save, 3 wounds. That can make it a little bit of a nightmare. Or
If-
Chaos Warriors.
If your
Wait,
war scroll
wait.
has the thing that says they get a 3-up for the rally.
Yeah, isn't the
Well, it says
add
musician,
one?
right?
No, musician adds another d6. Doesn't
Yeah,
add
it adds
a
It adds a dice,
Yeah.
not
okay,
adds
gotcha.
another dice.
Okay,
roll
understand.
value.
Yeah.
There are some units that
Add
give you more dice to roll.
Yes.
Like I saw
Okay.
the Sylvaneth like
Okay.
keepers or whatever. They give you like 4 more dice or something.
Which is really
Now
good.
that would be freaking cool if, like, because I'm thinking of Doc, right? Like they've got a 4-up rally if they're using, what's her bucket, and so the snake one.
Yeah.
So that would be cool to see that you could rally on a 3-up instead of on a
Yeah.
4-up with your dice.
So
That sounds like something that'll come out in the codexes.
yeah, we have seen some rules for this. The ability that you're speaking of right now, if I remember correctly, and the ability like where Gits can go ahead and rally a whole bunch as well.
Yeah, I think so.
It adds 3 dice to it.
Yeah.
So you could be rolling, if the person that you're trying to rally is has a
Yeah.
musician, 10 dice, and every 4-up is a wound back.
Yep.
Which more dice that can stack pretty fast.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Or it can be really bad if you're like me. So magical intervention. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but this is essentially being able to cast a spell on the active player's turn. So the opponent gets to cast a spell. You do get -1 to casting when you do this, and it's also a command point, but it is extremely good. Extremely good. For one of the reasons that I mentioned was getting an endless spell and blocking something. That's a good one, right? So magical intervention I think is going to be used a lot. I think you'll see that a lot. So
Another thing with it, with the magical intervention, is that it uses up your unbind for the turn as well.
Yeah.
Because the rule is you can only cast as many spells or unbind as many spells as you have as your power level. So if you already used your unbind, you can't cast again.
So this goes down to, let's skip the next one. And wizards can cast unbind equal to their power level. So for instance, wizard 2 can cast 2 spells, but also unbind 2 spells.
Because they're 2 different phases.
Right. Oh, I see
So-
what you're. I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah. If I used both of my unbinds during my opponent's turn, I can't use this to cast a spell. Because I've already used both of my power.
Wizards can cast unbind equal to their power level.
The gears are turning.
I thought it was 2 separate pools.
I believe it is 2 separate pools.
It's 2
from
separate
what
I'll go
pools,
ahead.
Cameron.
Go ahead and go for it. I'll go ahead and look it up.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it's 2 separate pools. You can, so if you like, for instance, if it's your turn and you cast 2 spells, you're wizard 2, and you cast 2 spells, when the opponent does magical intervention, you can also unbind, even though you cast 2 spells and you did all your power level, you can still unbind whatever they cast. It's 2 separate pools. You have a cast pool and an unbind pool, essentially.
I saw some people doing that on a couple of videos.
So it doesn't work exactly the way you think. So going back to the one before, wizards now have access to the entire spell lore, including
Oh, yeah,
manifestations.
you're right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's very good to know because that's going to be a gotcha. I think there's going to be people that have gotchas.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's watching this, and for us on here, you have 2 separate pools. You have a cast pool and an unbind pool, equal to.
Good to know. I didn't know.
Yep. We already talked about they have access to your entire spell lore, so no more. This person knows Spirit Gale, right? Like everyone knows it, right?
So nice.
Super nice.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just because I read it right now, another gotcha is that whenever you try to banish a manifestation, that does count toward your casting pool.
Gotcha.
Banishing does.
Okay.
So you can't banish and then cast a spell if you only have one.
Wow,
spell
that's
cast.
going to be so confusing. Oh my god.
Yes,
I already
yes, it
hate
is.
I already hate it. Okay. So yeah, we talked about that. Next thing, the last thing on here is unlimited spells exists. It can be cast by multiple wizards, but one wizard can only attempt to cast it once. So, was there an example? I can't remember of an example.
I know
of
a
this.
great example of
Go for
this.
it. Go for it.
So Vile Transference for Soulblight is an unlimited spell. It's
Yep.
like a 12-inch range, something like that, and it's one of those ones where you choose an enemy unit, you roll a number of dice equal to the amount of models, and every 6 is a mortal wound. That is an unlimited spell, so you can continue to cast that as many times as you want, as long as you have spells.
Yep.
Like Nagash, who has 9 spellcasts,
From a
can
different
cast
wizard. From a different wizard.
Is it from a different wizard?
Yes, it has to be from a different wizard. Nagash's War Scroll spell says you can cast it more than once,
unless
but it has to
unless
target
it
something
says
else.
Okay.
Nagash and 5 Necromancer sounds good.
Yeah, like
Yep.
Skaven have Wither as their unlimited spell, and it's just an
Mm.
18-inch D3 mortals.
So as long as you have if you have 3 wizards, they can all cast Wither, but they can only attempt to cast it once.
Yeah.
There you go. See, I'm learning new things all the time.
Yeah, I went through this pretty extensively to make sure I had these right because there are some gotchas in here for sure.
I've barely been able to read this book.
Next thing for Hero Phase, and I'll just get to the one that me and Cameron, I'm sure Cameron, this is what you were talking about. Unbinding Declare happens before the roll. I don't know if that's what you were talking about, Cameron. If not, you can go back to what you were talking about. But
It is not what I was talking about, but
to
ahead.
clarify here, you can no longer wait until what you see their roll. So if they roll like a 6 and be like, oh, well, I can unbind that, I'm going to unbind it. You have to declare your unbind.
And then hope
before.
they don't roll boxcars.
Right. So there's a huge change. So
that is very huge, actually.
yes. So you have to kind of be careful about what you're unbinding and when you do it. This is going to be a huge gotcha for players. Huge gotcha.
How does autocasts work with that?
What do you mean?
Is there any way to autocast spells?
I think just techless.
I don't know. I have
we
no
haven't
idea.
we haven't seen Techless yet, so
Okay.
Well, and it would make sense if they come out with some sort of FAQ, or maybe it says you have to declare whether or not you're using an autocast,
Yeah.
because the player who's casting would declare first
Yes.
before the player
Yes.
who's responding.
Exactly.
The wording would be instead of casting, da 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 da. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But what you can do, Mr. Zinch players, say I'm casting this spell, they decide they're going to unbind, and then you just put 2 6s.
And I
on
just
the
put
field.
Dusty Dice.
Yeah, you can do that. Absolutely.
We
You
still
can
got
do that.
Dusty Dice. Let's go.
So, Cameron, what were you talking
Dick move.
about earlier?
Dick move.
So this is one of the things I've seen that is something very minor, but it is a thing in 3rd edition that you can now no longer do in 4th edition. Is that for spells, you have to declare who you are targeting before you roll the dice.
Yes.
Okay, fair.
So before you could just say I'm casting Mystic Shield,
then
and
pick
you don't have
whatever.
to. You don't have to say who you're
Yeah.
targeting, which this can determine if your opponent wants to unbind or not.
Now,
Mhm.
and this all stems from just the generalized rule that Games Workshop has put in place where everything is declare now, right? It's
Mhm.
you have to declare everything before something happens, right?
Which
Yeah.
it should have been that way
Yeah.
from the
Yeah,
beginning.
it
'Cause
should have, but
Yeah.
It mostly helped armies like
That's
Zinch or
fine.
Seraphon get their summoning points up because they
I mean,
just
think
free cast spells.
how much easier your job as a TO is going to be when you don't have this whole, well, they didn't say.
Oh
Yeah, you just say, "Show me this War Scroll," and there you go.
Yeah.
As well as all of the spells, all of them say you declare who you're doing and then you roll.
Yeah.
Which was
It's going to make life a lot easier.
all right, you guys ready for this next gotcha? This one's going to be crazy. When they're
right.
going to probably have to FAQ it. Well, maybe we'll see. All right, so the top thing up here, dispel, and the spell is now called banish. Can only be done in your turn, but you can banish and summon in the same phase. So let me give you an example. You are the active player, and you summon the Everblaze Comet and completely destroy everything. And then on the next person goes, you unbind it, or you banish it, whatever. You go, and wait, hold on. Did I get that wrong? Did I get that twisted? Hold on. There's a specific way you can get Everblaze Comet to.
So what it would
Is
be
it like?
Go ahead.
Is it like it's unbound or it's banished, and then you spend CP for magical intervention, and then you summon it again, kind of?
Yeah,
thing?
essentially you can banish it in your turn and still summon it in the same phase. So it's not like the old days where you summoned Everblaze Comet, and then the opponent can get rid of it and you can't summon it again. That doesn't happen anymore. Like you can banish your own and summon it again. So,
yeah.
so that I mean, obviously you got to use multiple interactions for that, but no longer are the days where you can't cast something that was banished, right?
I mean, repositioning your move blocking spells is pretty nice.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
pretty good. I think this is going to be one that is abused quite a bit.
Yeah, but for the most part, most of the endless spells that do damage have to be away from your opponent, right? You can't just summon them in right next to your opponent.
No, they have to be
as long as
9
they
away.
don't, as long as they don't move. If they don't have a movement characteristic, you can set them wherever you want.
Yeah. So yeah, the Everblaze Comet or the Palisade.
Palisade's another one.
Mhm.
Yep. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Mystic Shield is garbage. Literally garbage. It is so bad. 6 cast for a 6-up ward. Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that. I'll do something else.
Tell us how you really feel.
It's trash. Well, and don't get me
You know-
wrong. I'm glad it's bad. I'm super glad. It was overused.
Especially since almost everybody and their mother has ward now.
Yeah.
Sorta.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still, regardless, Mystic Shield, garbage. I can't see anyone casting this. Would you rather have that or an endless spell? I mean, like, get out of here. Prayer overhaul. Prayers have got changed. Prayers are way better now. Priests are way better now. I think they're better than wizards
Okay.
now. You roll a d6, gain that many ritual points. Rolling a 1, you lose d3 ritual points. You don't take damage. You just lose d3 ritual points. They are not lost per battle round, and once they are spent, they go back to 0. And essentially what you're doing...
Question.
Yep, go ahead.
Are the ritual points a large pool, or are they individual per prayer?
Priest.
They're
Per
per
priest.
priest.
Okay. Okay.
So-
Just gotta double check.
And essentially there's like an overcharge mechanic for pretty much every prayer. So,
Yeah.
you know, a prayer goes off on a 5, right? Oh, I didn't get it. I only got a 4. Well, on your turn, I'll use magical intervention, do a prayer. I'll get up to whatever. Maybe I get my overcharge on my prayer and do whatever. Like I think
Okay.
priests are going to be very, very good. And the fact that you can't really do anything against them is insane. So
It's true.
good.
Yeah.
Any-
a lot
any-
of the
yeah, any thoughts on
leaked prayers so far are pretty nuts too. So you're definitely going to be armies that have priests are going to be running them.
Yes.
Okay.
And they're good.
That's-
They're very good.
Especially with the places of power, like
Yep.
you just put them next to that and just keep on going. And it's now no longer like first turn. You're probably not going to see too many of prayers go off, but second turn goes off.
Overcharge,
this-
baby.
As long as they overcharge
Mhm.
that stuff, like they're going to pop off.
And they're
I mean,
scary.
if you're
So
going
priests will
second
generally
first
be-
turn, if
Yeah.
you're going second first turn, you just spend your intervention on your opponent's turn. You can get your prayer off right away.
And you can
Okay.
bank these. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to do it if you don't want to, right? Like you can just.
Let's see them ones. Let's go.
I mean, yeah. Hey, you don't lose damage.
I mean, it makes them a lot more, I think, on the same level as bringing a spellcaster. Like before, I feel like our little priests were not getting as much clout.
Well, I think they're better. now.
Um,
I think they're better.
Yeah, I mean, this really does bring them up to the same level,
Yeah.
if not make them a little bit better, especially with the banking.
And you can't do anything against them. Like you can't. There's nothing you can do against them. Like they just get them.
You can kill the priest.
No, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Kill the priests.
Shoot the priest.
All right. Oh, anything else in Hero Phase? Anything else that I missed for Hero Phase? I think I got a lot of changes for Hero Phase. All right, let's move on to Movement Phase.
Can we have an artwork appreciation moment?
We're happy. Okay, this one's fun. You can move into combat with Faction Train.
Okay.
So Faction Train only counts as an enemy model in the charge and combat phases. This might get an FAQ, it might not, it might just be the way they intended it, but you can essentially just move in range of a Faction Train. So there's a gotcha.
Oh.
There's a gotcha for you.
That sounds like it'll be a slingshot to other units
Yep.
to pile in.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So
It
fun-
means you have to protect your faction terrain now. You
Oh.
can't just
Yeah,
leave
good
it
luck. I mean,
exposed.
shooting's just gonna take it
I
out.
can't
anyway.
use the pizza oven as defense because that's all it's good for. Ah, come on.
Big one is retreating. Retreating makes the unit take D3 damage, so that's a big one. Your little foot heroes, it's going to be real sketch if you want to get
Yep.
those out of combat. And then the last one I have for movement phase is redeploy, is quite a bit different. There's no distance restrictions anymore, so you don't have to be within a certain range to do redeploy. You can just, if you're on the edge of the board, you can just redeploy. It is done after all of the movement. Keep in mind, it's done after all of the movement abilities are done from the active player, and then you get to do it. It also counts as a run, which means you cannot shoot or charge later in the turn, unless your scroll says so. So, like, if you wanted to counter charge or anything, you cannot counter charge and redeploy.
Does redeploy, is it D6?
Yes.
Redeploy D6 inches?
Still,
Okay,
still
gotcha.
D6.
Yeah.
Still D6.
Okay.
So now you know how far your opponent's going to be able to do, and you don't have to wait. Do I want to wait for that redeploy
Right.
or not?
Yes.
Mm.
No
Well,
more.
you
No
just-
more redeploy games. It's just now.
Or
you
like
That's
summoning FEC models within 9 inches instead of moving them in.
Mm-hmm.
No
Ugh.
summoning.
Well, you still
Or
be able to
killing
return
back.
slain models, but yeah.
Cameron.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right.
so dirty.
Anything else I missed from movement phase?
Redeploy is going to be the king of this edition.
And countercharge, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yes, I think redeploy is very, very good. The fact that there's no movement restriction or no distance restrictions on this is crazy. It's super good.
Especially for some of the factions, which we will get into on the indexes.
Yes.
It is also something to keep in mind if you're like thinking you want to countercharge, just making sure you don't accidentally redeploy them, and then you realize, oh,
Yep.
I can't do that
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Or if you want to shoot,
Or if you have someone that can run and charge, you can still do it.
you can still do
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
true.
All right, shooting phase. Not much changes here. So they have the shoot in combat now. You can no longer shoot in combat unless your war scroll says shoot in combat, and it's per. It can even be per weapon, right? If your unit has multiple shooting attacks, one of them might be shoot in combat, the other one might not be. So
Yeah.
I can't remember. Does this mean you can't shoot anyone that is in combat, or you can't shoot if you are?
You
in
can
combat?
shoot if you are in combat. You can shoot other people in combat that are like off in the distance.
no,
Okay.
no.
Right?
If you're shooting combat, you have to shoot who you're in combat with.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is if you're in combat, you can't shoot unless you have the rule. But if someone else, like another unit's in combat,
Oh yeah.
yeah, you can still shoot them.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
That part hasn't changed. And then obviously covering fire is essentially unleash hell, but with a big upside. You basically have there's no restriction on distance here, right? Like unleash hell, you have to be a certain distance, so you can literally have something with 18-inch range shooting from the back line for covering fire. Now it has to be shot at the nearest visible unit, and they get -1 to hit. So there is some downsides for that, and it's also command point. But essentially, if you are a shooting army like KO, this is your bread and butter. You're going to be shooting like this like crazy.
I would like to compliment whoever made the PowerPoint with the appropriate image of flamers because they might actually have a use now.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
They've been
Don't get your
trash.
hopes up. I do hope flamers
They're
are better.
so
I have so
trash.
many of them. I do hope
So
they're better. Anything else on shooting phase? Any other gotchas? Anything I missed?
That's going to be huge.
I guess the only other thing is with index-wise is almost all mortals to shoot are now gone.
And everything that had long distance is like anything that was 24 inches is now 18. Anything that was 18 is now 12.
Yeah, not happy about it.
Everything
So,
just
like-
scaled down.
Not happy.
I
think 24 is now the furthest distance.
Which is crazy.
Which
Is there anything that's still
Now-
24?
Yeah, just Ales
Just
for
Ales,
Skaven.
Yeah.
Yes, Erica?
And they
On
can
the
ignore the guided
receiving
hero.
end, I'm glad that somebody can't just mortal wound a unit off the board.
Oh, like bow snakes? Yeah.
But being
Oh,
on
okay.
the, I know.
Oh, bummer.
Marathi and the
Bummer.
bow snake.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Hey, their tour had to end someday.
Their tour has
I
come
know.
to a close.
I-
They're retiring.
It's time to give witch elves some love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly.
All right.
Oh, with their 1 inch that's now a 3 inch for their tiny
Mhm.
little daggers that poke you. Okay,
Yep.
all right. We're back to that.
They're just
Anatomy.
throwing daggers.
Yeah.
I wanna-
Okay, they're throwing them 3 inches.
So we're
Your
gonna.
hair flips 3 inches.
Wow.
See, you understand.
Moving into the charging phase, I want to say this charging phase hasn't changed a lot, but Jesus Christ, countercharge is insanity. One quick note: charges must be visible of the enemy unit now. I don't think in third edition we had to worry about that. In this edition, we do. So they have to be visible to the enemy unit to charge.
Okay.
So let's talk about countercharge because I might. Everyone says that this is the number one thing that is going to change the game, and while I do agree, countercharge is extremely good. It is extremely good, and I cannot state it is extremely good enough. However, I have seen this played in context, and this can come back to bite you really bad.
Real hard. Yeah.
Really, really bad. It is first 2 CP, which are very, very precious. And you have to do this after all the charges have already been made, so you might not even be able to get to do this with what you want. And you miss that charge roll, and you can't re-roll it. It feels real bad. It feels really, really bad. That being said, you cannot understate how good this ability is. This will ruin battle tactics left and right. This is going to play into, like, play mind games with your opponent. Like, this is extremely good, but it has its downside as well. So, it is going to be I think this will be one of the abilities that changes the game for better or worse. Because you are going to be losing battle tactics left and right with this ability.
And there's also a few armies that have rules that say, like, on a 5-up or 4-up, counter, like, the command ability. So spending 2 command points and then someone rolling at 5 saying, nope, you don't get it.
Yeah, it's rough.
That's going to feel awful.
It's going to feel bad.
How good this ability to me honestly comes down to how many abilities are in the game that reduce the command point to like 0, like Stormcast used to have, where it's just they're issuing free commands left and right, or how like OBR if they get access to a bajillion command points.
They don't.
So far,
That's going to be.
we have not seen a single one.
That's critical. That's critical because that does. If there's more denial for command opportunities than there is ways to gain a bajillion command points, I can see this being important, but much more risky than people think it is. In addition, your opponent still is going to be able to fight first unless there is a fight for shenanigans for the countercharge.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
Correct.
So their opponent still gets to dictate the flow of combat.
To a point.
Yeah, of course,
there's a lot of, keep in mind, seeing a lot of the War Scrolls, there's a lot of strike first, strike last stuff now.
That's true.
But I just think this is going to be one of the things where I don't care what your combat is, I'm trying to deny your battle tactic. And that's what I think
true.
countercharge is going to be the most used for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then you get to an underdog, you kill a unit that they countercharged, and then you get to get more points next turn.
It's going to be crazy. It's going
And
to be
bonuses.
crazy on how this is going to be used. It's going to be pretty nuts. So, any other thoughts on countercharge? That's my 2 cents on countercharge. I think it's extremely good, but it's got a very big risk to it as well.
Not on countercharge, but for the charge phase.
Okay.
If you want to re-roll your charge, you have to declare that before you make the first roll. The command point.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense because of the declare. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, if you have to declare your unbinding before somebody casts a spell,
man.
that makes sense.
Is that actually the thing?
Ew.
That,
Like
I
the
like
wording
that.
for forward to victory, it says before you like roll your first charge. If you want to like try and do that re-roll off.
Yeah, it's very, very.
I don't like
that's
that
the way that
because
it is
you
worded
don't-
right now.
You don't know whether or not you're going to need it.
Yeah.
Although same
Ooh,
thing
that
with
is-
the
that is
dispelling.
bad.
It's
Ooh.
the same thing with the dispel, though. You don't know whether or
I know,
not you're
I know.
actually
It's the
going to be
same
able to
thing.
get off a dispel.
It's because of the declare thing that they have. I get it, but oof.
Yeah.
That's rough, man.
That's one of the things where I'm
You'll never
interested to
see it
they
if that's the
have
case.
So, okay,
a
question though.
FAQ or not.
Question. If I declare that I'm going to re-roll, do I have to take the re-roll?
No.
Because if I say, all right,
No.
I'm going to roll this charge, and if I don't make it, I'm going to re-roll, or I'm
That would be
and I'm
very
planning on
funny.
using
That would be
my
pretty
re-roll,
funny.
and then I get boxcars.
I think it's optional.
It
I'd have
probably
to
says
look
you
at
has to be,
can.
right? It
It probably
has
says
to
you
be.
can re-roll.
Yeah.
But you have to use your re-roll.
So then essentially it works the same way. If that's the case,
Basically,
Like I'm
you
putting
just
an insurance policy
Yeah.
on this
It
charge.
says
exactly.
you can re-roll the charge.
Okay, so
Reaction,
then-
Yeah.
you declared a charge ability.
so without getting into semantics, you technically could be like, I'm gonna forward to victory this. I'm gonna forward to victory this. I'm gonna forward to victory this until you need to re-roll it, or you just play it like you did before.
No, you still spend the command point regardless.
Yeah, you still have to
Oh,
spend
never
a
mind.
point
Okay,
point.
yeah, I don't see ever forward to victory ever working then. I just don't ever see that.
It's just like I have a 10-inch charge. I don't know if I'm going to make this. I'm going to spend the command point now just in case.
Oof, gross, man. That forward to victory is gross. I didn't think about
Yeah,
that.
and
Good
then
call.
you're gonna roll boxcars, and you're not gonna need the forward to victory, and then your CP is just gonna go boop.
Yeah, that's bad. I don't see
I
forward to
have
victory
one
being
question.
used. Like,
Unless it gets an FAQ, that's
Yeah.
it's never going to get
I,
used.
they
Yeah.
could they could easily FAQ that to be like, instead of the unit
I don't
using
know
that
if
charge,
you are banking.
the unit
If you are
using,
banking on a charge, and you have
No,
to
no,
make
no.
that charge,
they just FAQ
maybe
this.
you would put an insurance policy.
They just FAQ this to say the unit using that charge ability that failed the charge roll or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, but as it's written now,
It's
yeah,
bad.
that's what you got to do.
Yeah, it's real bad.
That's rough.
Yeah.
My one
Good call
question
out, good call
too
out.
is, do you have to say what you're trying to charge? Do you have to declare a target of your charge
No,
now?
that's
Or is it still...
that's still open, I believe.
Okay.
No,
Nice.
hold on. Let me double check. I don't.
Because that is very important.
Let me check.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because if you have to declare where you're going, and you're like, I'm
But-
going for that one 9 inches away, but this one is 7 inches away.
No, it just says so charge for declare. Pick a friendly unit that's not in combat and that has not used a run or retreat ability this turn to use this ability. Then make a charge roll. It doesn't say that you have to pick
Okay.
one, so that's
That's
still
good.
Okay.
Okay. You
Now-
don't even need to be in range of anyone anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no longer that 12-inch bubble thing that you had to worry about. But you do have to be visible to the enemy unit. So if they're behind something, you can't charge them.
I mean, you have to be 12 inches to charge. It's
3d6
Not
charge.
always.
3d6 charge.
There's a
But
whole
it was
bunch
kind of dumb before anyway, because you can only charge as many inches as your dice will
Whatever.
roll.
Most people didn't play that rule anyway, but it's
Yeah.
fine.
There's a whole bunch of abilities like ogres have plus to charge and all that.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
tactically get a 13 or 14.
All right.
Good luck with that, but
Combat phase. Let's go through combat phase stuff. A lot of this stuff is also to the shooting phase as well, so I'll try to call those out as I go. But I didn't want to put all the same stuff in the shooting phase as well. So some of this does go back and forth. So the big change, one of the big changes here is combat phase abilities happen first, starting with the active player, and then the opponent uses all of their combat abilities, and then the alternating combat happens. So everyone's going to be able to use their combat abilities before fights, which is very, very good, right? Because like for snakes, right? Like they had some like on a 2-up does D3 mortals. You'll be able to do that even though you aren't. It's not your active turn. You'll still be able to do that before fighting happens.
which is super good for a number of different
Super good.
Yes.
It's super, super good. You have more,
Rampages,
Yep. You have
all
more,
being done at once.
Yep. You have more interactivity in the combat phase. Now big change. You can pile in with every unit now, including stuff that's not in combat. The key thing here is you can't get out of combat of another unit. So the days of piling in, if you are in combat with 2 units, the days of piling around to get out of combat are gone. You have to stay into combat with both units now. You can no
Okay,
longer-
that's what you mean.
Yes.
That's what you mean.
Yeah.
It also doesn't have to be towards the closest unit.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, and pile in. There's no restriction. So if your unit is over here and it's completely out of the way, you have a 3-inch move any way you want to go. There is no, like, every unit gets a pylon move, which is very strange, but that's the world we live in. So, any other comments on pylon? Pretty crazy. Pretty nuts. Okay. So everything's got the anti-X keyword. The biggest thing here is stuff stacks. Any anti-keyword stuff stacks. So if you have things that do anti-keyword +1 damage and another thing that does anti-keyword plus damage, they're stacked on top of each other. So it's not like it's not like a passive ability now where you can only have one passive ability that affects things. Anti-keyword does stack.
I like this. This is definitely some good inspiration from 40K. Some of the good changes in 10th was the anti stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it led to some shenanigans with devastating wounds, but that's because it's a little different. But I do like this. I do like this.
Companions are now a huge keyword on most mounts and stuff. They don't get any modifiers except for all attack. They do get +1 to hit for all attack. It's specified in the all attack. However, there is something to keep note here that is a gotcha. Here's a gotcha. So they've split up the combat phase, the fight phase, in 2 subphases. They've got the attack sequence and the damage sequence. So companions, they don't get any buffs or debuffs. Well, no, I guess debuffs isn't the right word. They don't get any buffs to their modifiers in the attack sequence. So they'll like +1 to hit, +1 to wound, anything like that. They don't get +1 to damage. They don't get any of that.
Except for all out attack.
Except for all out attack. However, if there's a rule that says this attack negates ward rolls or ward saves, right? Because the ward saves happen in the damage sequence, companions can actually get away with this. So companions can get away with the opponent not having ward saves on that. So that's the only edge case I can see right now, but there might be other things that happen in the damage sequence that companions do, but right now that's the only edge case I see is ignoring words. So any other things on companions? Pretty self-explanatory. Kind of works relatively the same.
Question, because I remember seeing on Stormcast that they can die like on a roll of 1. Is that just very faction dependent? I just remember seeing for the little griffins, the little death griffins.
There are some cases where...
Oh, that's tokens.
Okay, tokens.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, also the Swamp Kala dude with the pot grot, if he rolls like under a 4-up save, or I don't remember.
4 to cast.
Oh, is that what it is? Under 4
Yeah.
cast?
Yeah. 4 to cast. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's going to take the verbiage is going to take some getting used to, because those like tokens versus mounts versus companions versus getting that lingo down is gonna.
That's gonna be interesting.
All unit.
I mean, we'll get used to it real fast though.
All unit champions get +1 to attack characteristics, melee and shooting. So obviously, pretty self-explanatory. Most of them did that anyway. We talked about all attack. However, there's a big change here. All out attack only applies to that combat, and that combat alone. So no longer do you get all attack for the entire phase. It only happens for that combat.
Oh.
All out defense does happen for the rest of the phase, though. That one is, for whatever reason, that one's a phase. All attack is just that combat.
So no fight twice shenanigans. Interesting.
Yep.
Well, you still get the fight twice.
You still get the fight twice, but not with all attack.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. Yeah. Really gotcha. I think a lot of people are going to get that one out of sync.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of gotchas on the all attack, for sure. We already talked about no more weapon ranges. All can fight within 3 inches, so watch your heroes. You're going to see so many heroes get popped just from, and you. I'm not going to worry about your screen. I'm just going to put everything under your hero. He's dead. A lot of that's going to happen.
You're going to have to place them very strategically.
And you have to remember, you only get guarded hero, too, if you're within combat range of another unit. So you're going to have to play pros and cons of how that works. So
yeah.
And then this one's kind of a big deal too. Damage points are allocated to unit as a whole instead of by model. So all the attacks go through. You get a damage pool. Like let's say it's 4 damage. You no longer have to put it on the one on. It's a pool instead of putting it on one model. If that makes sense. So now you can remove a single unit.
That is a
single model.
fantastic change.
Yeah, for sure.
That just makes it so much more simple. Trying to remember what model was the one that had a wound on it. Did I put it on the banner? Did I accidentally put it on a random other dude?
Yeah.
Just making it a pool makes it so much simpler. I think most people played that way in general, but it really does matter. That really did matter in certain games.
It matters how you pull them, though.
Yeah. It's true.
Especially when you're talking like musician gets +1 to the rally, and I mean, it matters how you pull them.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
All right, we'll go to combat phase 2. Oh no, that is it. So any other combat changes? Combat phase changes. I'm sure
Not
I
a
forgot
change,
something.
but the command for crash through, I guess. Can we talk about that?
I put that in the scoring, but yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Because it's at the end of the turn.
No,
We'll get there.
I want to bring this up because I had to look it up because I was confused.
Yep.
When we were talking about pylons, pylons is pretty close to what we were before. The thing about the unit not being in combat, you still have to have the ability to pylon anyways. So you still have to be in combat or have charge to get it, just like it was before.
Oh really?
Because you only get pylon through the fight ability. In order to use the fight ability, you need to have charged or be in combat.
I mean, okay, if you already looked this up, I believe you. So, my bad. So then, when you read it out of context, it seems like you can, or when you read it in the rules underneath pylon, it feels like you can do that. But if you could only fight...
Because it says in 15.3, some abilities such as the fight ability allow a short move called a pylon move.
Interesting.
So you declare a fight and then you pylon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like it is now. If you so what it is if you're not in combat, if you charge with 2 people and the first person kills the person that you were in combat with, you can still pylon and attack with the second.
Well, and with that pylon, it no longer has to be the closest unit. You can pylon.
Yeah, that's the biggest change for me. Because then it's not like, well, technically I'm 3.2 inches versus 3.3 inches, and so you have to come this way instead.
Huh, okay. Well, then I stand corrected. I thought pylon was even for stuff outside. I thought that was strange anyway.
And the way that pylon works is you don't need to go to pylon towards the closest enemy unit. It is you pick an enemy unit that you are in combat with.
Yep.
And then all of your models can pylon towards that unit.
However, you still have to be in combat with all stuff that you...
You cannot exit the combat of the unit you're already in.
Yep. Correct.
So you can move 3 inches away, but you have to still stay within 3 of an enemy.
One of your models has to stay within that combat, in that combat range. So if you have, for instance, where's my thing? If you have two enemy units here and you're in a line, if you pile in to one of them, you still have to have at least one model in combat with the other one. You can never exit combat.
Yeah.
So that is a big change because you used to be able to just get out of combat. So
that was one of my favorite tactics of just charging in. Oh, you're in combat. Oh, nope, you're not in combat anymore.
No longer.
You can now no longer do that.
You have to stay in combat. Okay, cool. Good clarification. Thank you, Cameron. Cool. Anything else on combat phase? All right, let's go. We're almost done here. Let's go to scoring. Scoring is definitely some stuff for scoring. Obviously, it's a 40mm objective marker and 3 inches in addition. You can be on top of it. I know there was some talk about, you can't be right on top of it. Yes, you can.
That came from 40K.
Yeah. So that is not the case. You can stand right on top of it.
You take a poker chip and everything within 3 inches of
it. Is a poker chip 40 mil?
Most of them, I believe, are.
We this is side conversation, but we will need to figure out something for July 20th because we don't have objective markers, so we're going to figure that out. Anyway, I will say
poker chip is 39mm.
Oh, it's not good enough. So I will
Throw
say,
it out.
in context of the smaller objective marker, after watching some battle plans with it, it makes a big deal. that
Oh, yeah.
the large pie plate that we used to have, it was much easier to get on points. It's a lot tougher now to get
Yeah.
on these. So keep that in mind.
Plus, I think like models like a
Oh.
L'Oreal, whose base is 6.6 inches or something,
Yeah,
can
yeah.
just cover the entire thing.
Or giants.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Giants aren't as big as you think they are.
No, I know. Or sorry, we could say Archeon. We could say
Yeah.
Archeon.
Yeah.
you know,
Mock
Mega
Crusher.
Boss and Mog Crusher.
spiders. Good luck.
Yeah, because
Spiders.
they're
Spider Thing's back.
Spider Fang
objective
meta.
is like a 8 inches diameter, so like
Yep.
they can pick up a majority of a single objective,
Which is going to be a fun
Yeah.
thing to play against. But yeah.
Yeah, two
so-
spiders can just prevent your opponent from just ever getting near.
And you take 40 zombies and you just.
Or 40 clan rats.
Yes.
Everyone's going to have 40 clan rats.
Mm-hmm.
Battletech
You don't even
Like a
need the
ring around
coherency.
the objective.
No, you
Yeah,
don't even
you-
need the
you li-
coherency. Yeah, yeah.
You don't need the old coherency. The new coherency is fine. You just are in 2 ranks around that little objective marker.
Just create a
Ugh,
circle.
gross. Exactly.
Although that would be bad for pulling stuff. Never mind, you don't do that. Battle Tactics gain a player 4 victory points instead of the old 2. And then there are 6 universal battle tactics. Thank God.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 for each Grand Alliance. So way better to keep track of 8 than all of the battle tactics that everyone had, as well as Grand Strats are now gone. So thank you for doing this.
Oh no, some factions don't have automatic ones where they
Yes.
get it.
No.
matter
Daughters
what.
of Cain.
No.
I'm looking at you.
No, that's not daughters. That's KO.
Or
Oh,
KO.
I get
Or
in
KO.
I get in the boat.
Okay, yeah.
Next
Well-
turn, I get out of the boat.
Yeah, fucking
Next
stupid.
turn, I be out of my territory
Literally
with my
dumb.
1 boat.
Oh wait! No,
So
Daughters of
stupid.
Cain is. You see me? I'm here. I made it.
I didn't have to
I-
do
I
anything
appeared.
else.
That's true.
I didn't have to do anything
Use
else.
the war scroll. Battle tactics
Just the
cheat.
worst-
Man,
Woo!
I'm so good at this game.
So
That,
What are
and
you
that was
talking about?
2 units. That was 2 units. Just use the war scroll. Check. Battle
so
tactics
stupid.
cheat.
But no longer is that the case. I also think looking at the Grand Alliance battle tactics, I think Destruction got the shit into the stick on it, but we'll see. I think the other 3 are pretty good, pretty okay. I think Destruction are very situational, and I don't like them.
Yeah.
It makes me not want to take a Destruction on me. It just makes me sad.
Yeah. To go from your own territory and then get in a fight and like kill 2 things
Yeah.
is such
Yeah.
a hard one to do.
Yeah, it's
Dude.
very
but
situational. Not a fan.
One of the biggest things with scoring is that the score is now no longer going to be like 20 to 30 points.
Yeah,
Like 50.
Scores are now going to be like
out of
50 to
50.
80 points, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Perfect turn, I think, is 10 points. Right?
Yep.
Okay, so like max of 50 instead
Yep.
of like a max of 30.
Definitely makes it easier determining like
Who
rankings.
the actual
Yeah,
Who the
you know what?
actual
It's a
winners
good
are.
point. From a tournament perspective, you're absolutely right. It's going to make it a lot easier. Yeah, that's a good call.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, me too. Underdog, we already talked about it. Whoever has the fewest victory points. Control now determines objective control, so every war scroll has a control score on them. And when you get pluses, like Standard Bearer adds 1 to the unit's control score, you are adding it to the total. We are not adding it to every single model. That's not how this works. You are adding it to the total. So anything that adds to the control score adds to the total control. I think there might be an exception with ogres. I think there was an ogre exception where it does actually multiply
Yeah.
the models.
But those are going to be few and far in
few
between.
Yeah.
and far.
It has to specifically say that.
Yes.
It affects the characteristic.
Anything that adds to
Okay.
the control score is adding to the total control score.
So it goes from 10 to 11, not 10 to 20.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Because that would
Gotcha.
start to get super crazy and out of control.
Once I start
Yeah.
doing multiplication in my
It's too
objective
much.
control, I'm not.
It's too much. I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. All right. We all kind of saw this one coming. This was one of the things that was leaked quite a bit early. If you choose to have a double turn, you cannot pick a battle tactic, which is a pretty big deal. However, if you are given the double, you can still pick. So that was one of the questions that we did have once that came out. So
Yeah.
if you are given the double, you can still pick a battle tactic. If you take a double, you cannot.
For people
Which
who
is-
complain, for people who complain that the double turn is overpowered, I think that this is a decent compromise. Because if you're not skilled with the double turn and you take the double turn, and then you get messed up by it, then that's on you.
If you
But
take the
you
double
still-
turn and
it's-
don't capitalize on it, you're done.
You have to know when the right time to take the double turn is. That was true in 3.0. Here, it's especially true.
Yep.
So I'm very much. It's going to make competitive play really interesting, a lot more dynamic, as there's a lot more consequences to taking the double turn here.
Might take some testing, but theoretically, you can also give yourself the double just to make sure you're also the underdog.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think, without going into too much detail, I think a lot of games are going to be something similar to this. You go low drops, you make your opponent go first, then you go in as hard as you can, you remove as much as you can, you get the double, you take it, you say screw the battle attack, don't need it, I'll be the underdog for the next one, continue to cripple your opponent's army, and then at that point you're just playing catch up at that point. And I think that is going to be the relative case of maybe not a lot of battles, but I think you'll see that more often than not, is that sort of mentality of what to do. I think that's what you're going to see the most of.
Yeah, it's just one of those things of you able to control the tempo is a huge thing.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, Jed, if you just blindly do that and you're not really thinking about it, and you don't capitalize on that double turn that you took, you're going to be behind and you're going to be in trouble. So this is where good players are where you get to see the difference between good players and normal players. I think this is when you get these double turns.
Yep.
And then the last thing I have is power through. It's kind of I guess it's not really scoring. It's a CP at the end of the end of turn or end of any turn. End of any turn.
Yeah, end of turn.
So end of any turn that charges turn, and in combat, pick an enemy unit in combat that must be lower health than. Okay, so essentially what this is, there's a lot of text here. If your unit is in combat with another unit and you have higher health than that unit, you can use this command point, and you can give that enemy unit D3 mortals and move to another location. And you can end in combat, right? Yes, you can end in combat.
You can end in combat, but only with the person that you are in combat with. You cannot end combat with a new person.
Oh,
you can't use it to charge into a back hero behind a screen or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you could move away to another unit.
Nope, only the unit that you are currently on.
Or you can use it. Or you can use it as a retreat.
Yeah, it's a good escape
without taking the damage.
Or there's a unit that has 2 wounds left that you're sitting on the opportunity to take a double turn, and you do the little D3 mortal wounds, and then you kill them off, and then you're ready for a double turn.
And then you roll.
And that makes it real scary.
Now, flavor perspective for this power through, I hate it because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because power through, you're thinking you can charge. Like if you have cavalry, like this is what I'm thinking about. You have calves.
Yeah.
And you charge in. You power through. You would think that you could go over the screen, but that's not how that works. The only time that you can do that is if you have fly. Otherwise, you have to go around, or something similar to that fashion. You don't get to go over the unit, which to me feels unflavorful for something that's called power through, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have to have higher health than what you're fighting. Keep that in mind as well.
Yeah. So like cavalry,
heroes.
ogres,
Yep.
stormcast,
Trogs,
elite infantry,
stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else on scoring changes?
All I say is that power through is going to be absolutely massive.
My thing is you have so many commands that you want to do during your turn. Are you going to have enough?
Yeah, are you going to have any left?
If you're playing Gargants, you're saving for that, because then you just power through onto an objective and take it.
Ah, there you go.
And
Or you...
Is power through before
power
or after?
through?
End of turn.
End of turn.
So before or after points are allocated?
There's so much recursion.
Scoring
though.
happens after this. So you can power through on an objective and get it, and then scoring happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge, especially with somebody like, okay, you're in combat. Let's say you've been sitting there for a fat minute, and somebody just keeps bringing stuff back. You've got to save up for this, to chop through as many as you can because they're just going to rally and bring them back.
Yeah, there's
What
definitely circumstances for this.
Yeah. What I see is like we've seen some of the stuff for Lumineth and like the Dawn Riders. You can give them like an 18-inch movement. I charge you, I hit you, and then I move 18 inches away onto the objective.
Yeah.
Good luck hitting me back.
I think it's army dependent and obviously board
Yes.
dependent. It's just there's so many Remember, you're only getting 4 command points, maybe 5.
Yeah, but be able to hit with my cavalry, like my Blood Knights, which get
Yeah.
bonuses on charge. I hit you, and then I move back so I can actually charge again next turn.
Depending if you get the turn, otherwise you're screwed. But yeah, I get your point. I get your point.
Or countercharge.
Yeah, counter
Countercharge, yeah, countercharge is good. I'm just saying, right there. That's
Is this going to
3
be the
command
night edition?
points.
I don't know.
That's 3 command points right there. So,
Knights are absolutely scary, by the way.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we'll see, man. Command points are just so valuable in this edition.
Yeah.
And to Cameron's point, we haven't seen we haven't seen any other situation where you get a command point. So, like they did a very good job of making these powerful and
Yeah.
valuable. So it's gonna be crazy, man. I can't wait to start playing games once the indexes come out. It's gonna be crazy.
Same here.
And like also remember, like you're limited to 4 command points, but for a lot of the times you can get 5 to 6 command points. Do you have an auxiliary? It puts me at 5. Am I the underdog? That puts me at 6. Now I have a crap ton of stuff that I can do.
And
I can
Yeah.
countercharge you, all out attack, power through, cast a spell.
like,
Do
yeah,
you keep your commands going into the next turn?
No.
No.
no
No.
Refreshes
No.
every round.
round? Yes, you keep them through
Yeah.
the turn, but
Yeah,
when the new round comes, it's 4 command
Yeah.
points.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's it. That's all we got. So let me just hear your overall conclusions of what we've gone through. I'll just start real quick for me. I'm just excited to switch it up. I think 3rd edition was getting stale. I think a lot of the egregious things that we had for 3rd edition they removed and scaled it back, and I think it's gonna be wild for the first probably. I think they're gonna do. Fall, winter, summer, spring, what do you call them? Battle scroll updates. So, and there's only 2 major ones. So 2 are minor, 2 are major. So
Yep.
2 of the minor ones are just basically like points.
Minor points.
Yeah, and then the major ones will be like changes and stuff that's egregious.
Okay.
So I think for the first 3 months, man, it's going to be a wild adventure for Age of Sigmar. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Even more than when 3rd edition came out. I think this is crazy. I'm excited for it, and give me the indexes. Let's go. Erica, what are your thoughts?
I really like how they've streamlined a lot of the back and forth. I think there's going to be a lot of clarity when it comes to declaring what you're doing. I think that's going to help streamline gameplay and reduce some arguments. I like some of the changes. Some of the changes I'm still like, I gotta see this in action before I can actually make a real determination. I'm one of those that has to like do the thing to make a real good judgment on it. But I do, again, I like that it's more like a game of chess where you're talking moves and counter moves and really planning things out. I am going to have to figure out how the heck I'm going to make my own AOS reminders.
Just remember everything.
Yeah, just
Okay.
be good.
Just know your entire book.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Remember
Simple as.
yours. Also remember to remember your opponents.
Yeah, because you're gonna need to.
Yep. Just bring cheat
There's
dice.
not
Season
enough
each.
room in the noggin.
Cameron, let's go to you. What are your thoughts? Conclusion?
I really like the competitive nature of this one. It's going to be a lot more higher rank competitive, but at the same time, I am worried for a lot of things that I need to see an FAQ from everything that I've seen, because it might be like a shooter's game, even though I don't want it, based off of like how much movement there is with a lot of things, to the point where Like we'll go with the example of the just like basic cavalry, 12 inches. I hit a Nurgle guy, and then I power through back, and then he moves 4 inches towards me, and then I redeploy 3 inches back. Just melee. It might be to a point where just melee just never is going to be able to get into combat, and that worries me a little bit.
That's fair.
But other than that, that's my only worry. And each of the factions that I've seen has their own movement shenanigans that makes me think that shooting might be a little bit too good, even though they downplayed it more.
Interesting. I was going to say the opposite. I think shooting's worse in this edition, but we'll see.
I can give examples, but I'll save for those for the indexes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Henry?
I think while there are some gotcha moments, this edition kind of streamlined a lot of things, making it easier for newer players to kind of come in and start to learn the game itself, while also kind of leaving that skill expression, like with commands and knowing when to use them for like more competitive players.
And Jed, you seen it for the first time, a lot of this stuff.
Best, yep. Saving the best for last.
I wouldn't go
I
that far.
think for this edition, this is the new player edition. I was here for my first edition was third edition, and this looks way easier to get into than what I got into. I'm super excited for the Spearhead boxes. I think that those are going to be a great tutorial games to
Yeah.
get people to understand what is Warhammer, what is the hobby, what does this look like, and get people, new players on the table. And as
The
Cameron said,
gateway.
exactly, yes, the gateway. Your first Spearhead box is free. No, it's not. So, and then getting into competitive, as Cameron said, I think there's going to be some jank. There was some jank in 10th edition.
Yes.
I think overall the GW team for AOS has looked at some of the mistakes that 40K has made,
Yep.
and has had the opportunity to learn from them.
Agreed.
Don't buy the index cards if you're going to be surprised when they get overruled by a new codex coming out. I'm going to get index cards for the ones I like, but that's just
my
don't be
bet
surprised when they
index
get
cards
outdated.
will last 1 month.
Yeah. Just don't be surprised by that. It's the same thing as buying an army or buying a book at the end of an edition. Same with the beginning. This is how indexes work. We've seen it through 40K. Just don't be surprised by that. But this looks to be the new player edition, and I'm really excited for competitive scene as well.
Yep.
So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think it gives us a really good mix
Yeah.
of both. Like you've got the new player that can ramp up, and then it also gives you a chance to really extend your skills and your prowess with the game too.
Yeah. They've really made this edition easy to learn but hard to master.
Yeah.
A lot of skill
I
expression.
agree.
Easy to learn but hard to master. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the show. We're gonna have so many shows coming up because we're gonna go through each one of the indexes. I mean, it's gonna be nuts. We're gonna have one on GHB and the battle plans.
Yep.
So just stay tuned. I'm hoping to get through. We've got to at least try to get through 2 or 3 factions at a time because otherwise we'll be here for days. And by the time we do that, a new freaking battle tome
We'll be
come
on
out.
season 5.
Yeah.
And we'll have to do it all over again. So keep an eye out for that. Hopefully this was helpful for some of you. And if you haven't already, sign up for the Smite tournament. And
Sign up.
Yep. And we will.
I'm signed up.
See you guys next Tuesday.
Yep.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.